Meanwhile, heavy rain drenches the deserted street, setting a somber and stormy atmosphere as the story begins. As heavy rain begins to pour over the somber, empty street, a distant cry breaks the silence. Alone beneath the gloomy sky, the young man stood beneath his umbrella, lost in quiet contemplation as rain softly pattered around him, his melancholy evident in the way he held his cigarette and stared into the distance. Amidst the gentle rain, the main character stood alone beneath his umbrella, lost in quiet contemplation as a melancholic mood settled over him. Beneath a gray sky, the MC walks alone down the deserted street, his pensive expression mirroring the somber mood as raindrops patter softly against his umbrella. Rain pours relentlessly over the silent, gated compound, casting a somber mood over the desolate scene. Lost in a haze of reflection, the man sat quietly, cigarette in hand, his thoughts swirling as smoke drifted around him. With an ominous air, the man revealed a sly, scheming smile and made a secretive gesture, hinting at intentions hidden beneath his calm exterior. Through the downpour, a mysterious man arrived with determined steps, his presence casting a tense energy over the rain-soaked street. With a steely gaze and unwavering resolve, the MC warned his opponent to wait, his intensity filling the air with tension. 3 months earlier, the story shifts to the imposing gates of high school, establishing both the setting and a sense of foreboding. Suddenly, the frightened young man with glasses, overwhelmed and shocked, demanded in a panicked yell to know what was happening. The man, his expression tense and aggressive, demanded to know why things had turned out this way before forcefully ordering the MC to stop hesitating and come inside. Suddenly, the terrified boy recoiled with a gasp, panicking and stepping back as fear him. Suddenly, the furious man delivered a powerful punch to the MC's face, sending his glasses flying as shock spread across the MC's features. He reflected remorsefully on his actions, accepting that this moment of pain and resignation was likely his punishment. A menacing man confronted the startled MC with a sinister glare, declaring that everything he was doing was because of his past. With brutal force, the cold and authoritative man delivered a punishing blow to the MC's head, leaving him shocked and reeling under the weight of this intense retribution. With unyielding determination, the man delivered a powerful punch to the MC's chest, leaving him shocked and reeling from the sudden, intense blow. A battered boy, his voice trembling with panic, urgently warned his senior to turn around as danger loomed nearby. The terrified young man, battered and desperate, recoiled instinctively as a massive fist loomed threateningly toward him, the moment charged with fear and violence. With fierce aggression, the man delivered a powerful kick to the MC, demonstrating his dominance as the MC reeled back in shock. With a sinister smirk, the man looked down and let out a smug chuckle, clearly gloating over his perceived advantage. In a charged moment, the aggressive man stood assertively over his shocked opponent, who lay sprawled on the ground after being forcefully knocked down. Amused, the bystander filmed as the confident aggressor, sounding smug, asked if his impressive kick had been captured well on camera, while the defeated victim remained curled on the ground. One man, his curiosity evident, questioned the other about why he was filming, prompting the composed man with the phone to explain that he was simply following instructions. A tired-looking man, holding up his phone with an apathetic expression, was asked why disliked someone so intensely, to which he responded indifferently that he had no idea. In the tense atmosphere, the authoritative man reproached for being careless and drawing attention by hitting the face, prompting to nervously apologize while another man silently observed from the background. With a menacing glare, the man imposed his will, ominously suggesting that things would change from this moment on as he demanded the other's attention. An intimidating man confronted the fearful MC, demanding to know what he was doing, while the MC, kneeling on the ground in shame, stammered an apology. With a mocking tone, the man taunted his senior by sarcastically lamenting the situation, and then insincerely admitting that it was his fault, his confident smirk betraying his true intentions. A younger boy, his tone dripping with smug amusement, mocked his distressed senior by jeeringly asking what he had done wrong and exclaiming how hilarious he found the situation, while the senior endured the ridicule in silence. Confronting the frightened and bruised boy at close range, the man asserted in an accusatory tone that the entire situation was the boy's fault, leaving the tense atmosphere heavy with blame. Leaning in with a menacing glare, the domineering man cruelly commanded the MC to bark like a dog, forcing him to endure a wave of humiliation and fear. A tense atmosphere settled over the scene as the boy confronted the visibly anxious MC, pressing him about his expression and reminding him that he had already admitted his mistake, which left the MC looking even more distressed. Leaning in with a sly expression, the man provocatively asked the wounded, fearful boy if he was refusing, his tone laced with menace as he held the boy's face to intimidate him. With a tense sigh, the young man reluctantly admitted defeat, stating that if the other person was unwilling, there was nothing more they could do. With resolute determination, the man in the suit confidently urged the group to continue with their previous course of action, his words prompting the others to attentively follow his lead. With a menacing glint in his eyes, the aggressive man threatened the fearful figure on the ground, warning that he would target his body this time so the injuries would remain hidden. With tension mounting, the young man anxiously uttered a crucial word, his determination shining through even as a bead of sweat traced down his face. Hearing someone call out, the man turned his attention forward with a look of surprise, alert to the sudden interruption. Forced to his knees in front of the dominant man, the humiliated MC obeyed in shame by barking like a dog, his submission fueling the smug satisfaction of his tormentor. Amused by his dominance, the aggressive bully mocked the distressed boy and demanded that he bark louder, while the humiliated victim, overwhelmed by shame, reluctantly obeyed his cruel command. Standing outside the building, the man smugly patted the kneeling boy's head and told him in a patronizing tone that he had done well, repeatedly calling him a good boy while the boy remained silent and resigned. With a smug expression, the dominant man declared to those present that he was now appointing someone as his subordinate, his words hanging in the tense atmosphere as the others stood by, indifferent and disinterested. As the two young men walked side by side, one announced with determination that it was time to gather, while the other, glancing at his phone with an assured demeanor, confirmed that they were ready. Han, unable to attend in person, instructed the MC via message to record a video, to which the MC replied with focused agreement as he read the directive on his smartphone. The assertive leader impatiently urged the group to get moving, while another, surprised by the abruptness, questioned whether they were really leaving already, as the withdrawn boy remained seated and isolated against the wall. As the three men gathered outdoors in a relaxed atmosphere, one playfully remarked that things were just getting interesting. Another cautioned the group about being late and upsetting, while the boy suddenly realized and confirmed that today was the day of their gathering. With a smug smirk, the man dismissed the boy's challenge and, feigning nonchalance, suggested they play again tomorrow, his tone laced with mockery. As the three men walked away with smug satisfaction, the first taunted that he should buy a dog collar while the second laughed and called someone crazy, leaving the crouched MC feeling utterly humiliated. Suddenly, the main character's face contorted in shock and fear as he processed a frightening realization, his unsettled eyes betraying the depth of his bewilderment. The scene shifts to the entrance of orphanage, where its sign is displayed prominently, introducing a new setting. As sunlight gently filters through the window, the calm emptiness of the room at dawn creates a peaceful, almost expectant atmosphere. On a quiet table, two framed family photographs sit side by side, each capturing moments of happiness and warmth as loved ones pose together, their smiles reflecting cherished memories from the past. At a nearly deserted train station shelter, a solitary man sat in silence, his pensive gaze fixed on the distance as he waited in isolation. With tense anticipation hanging in the air, the man's pensive hands deliberately slid a cigarette from the pack, preparing to smoke as his thoughts swirled. Taking a quiet break, the young man reflected that it had been a long time since he last enjoyed some free time, his demeanor contemplative as he smoked his cigarette. A stern authority figure confronted the startled student, reprimanding him that students were not allowed to smoke. Three boys, their faces lit with playful grins, teased each other as one warned that they'd get in trouble with the teacher, while another lightheartedly accused the group of being the culprits. One of the boys, startled by his friend's playful tease under the gazebo, exclaimed with surprise while the others watched on, some amused and some indifferent to the commotion. A cheerful boy invited the MC to join a game of tag and insisted that he be it. But the uncomfortable MC quickly made an excuse, saying he was suddenly busy to avoid playing. A nervous boy volunteered to be it, but the man nearby dryly teased him by saying he was already being chased by society, adding an awkwardly humorous tone to the moment. As the three curious boys approached and questioned the stoic man seated on the park bench, he responded aloofly, dismissing their inquiry by saying that kids like them would not understand. As the three boys confronted the seated MC in the park, one of them asked if he was willing to comply, but the MC resolutely refused their request, his unyielding demeanor making his decision clear to all present. A boy in the foreground, feeling both discontent and curious, muttered that if Saul were present he would have joined their game, then wondered aloud about the whereabouts of the recently arrived, while a silent man in a tracksuit observed from a nearby bench. On the playground, the adults seriously admonished the group, warning them not to exclude or bully their new friend, while one of the boys quickly explained that the new kid had just gone to the bathroom and the others nodded in agreement. Seated sternly beneath the pavilion, the man warned the three boys that misbehavior would cost them any treats, prompting one defiant boy to retort that he didn't need such bribes, while the other two watched on apprehensively. The boy smiled candidly, and expressing his honest feelings, voiced his concern that buying treats might make it seem as though kindness was only shown for that reason. Meanwhile, the young man offered a gentle, reassuring smile, his calm demeanor radiating hope for what lay ahead. As a group of boys eagerly called for their friend to hurry and join them, the latecomer cheerfully apologized while running over, all under the quiet gaze of the MC observing from a distance. Outside near the wooden shelter, one man decisively suggested that they decide who would be it by playing rock, paper, scissors, while the other, appearing anxious and preoccupied, thought to himself that he needed to smoke quickly before joining in. As the man lit his cigarette, he paused in curiosity, wondering aloud what had caught his attention off-panel. The main character, growing increasingly irritated, struggled to make his lighter work and muttered in frustration that it seemed to run out far too quickly. Slumped on the bench and struggling to catch his breath, the exhausted young man let out a weary sigh just as a mysterious figure with a large bag quietly approached. Meanwhile, the young man paused with calm determination, holding his pen near his face as he carefully prepared for his next move. Meanwhile, the MC moved cautiously toward the building, his wariness heightened by the presence of a suspicious man watching him from the shadows. Desperate and injured, the young man urgently called out for Saul, his voice betraying his anxiety as he sought help. Upon noticing his injury, the main character reacted with shock and deep concern, urgently asking what had happened to his face. At the playground, the boy anxiously insisted that he was hurt while playing, but the man, clearly suspicious, pressed him further by questioning whether he'd actually been in a fight. A bruised and nervous boy insisted that he was serious about having fallen while playing soccer, but the other person, sounding skeptical, reminded him that he had already used that excuse for his injuries before. Feeling overwhelmed, the fatigued boy admitted to the silent man that playing soccer was far more intense than he had expected. The young man, trying to hide his own worry, reassured the other person by insisting that his injury was not serious and that there was no need for concern. As they sat together under the shelter, the man expressed his worry about the boy's troubled appearance, while the boy nervously tried to downplay the concern with a shaky laugh. Facing the MC with suspicion, the man demanded to know what he had been doing there and pressed if he intended to simply overlook the situation, sparking a tense confrontation between them. Despite his battered appearance, the boy calmly insisted that his injuries were nothing serious, prompting the other person to question with concern if he was truly all right. With a tense hesitation, the reserved young man reluctantly agreed to the request, his apprehension clear despite his attempts to appear composed. As the two young men settled onto the benches in the tranquil outdoor space, the main character asked with curiosity whether it was a day off, and his companion, looking relieved, replied that he was finally able to catch his breath after a long time. Sitting side by side in weary silence, the worn-down man confessed to feeling nostalgic for his school days, while the MC listened quietly, lost in his own thoughts. With a somber air, the man, his voice gentle but concerned, asked if the other person had considered returning to school. A contemplative man, his gaze turned away across the misty field, quietly wondered if someone was truly coming back. As the two young men lounged indoors, the main character joked that if he returned now, he would end up as the other's junior, prompting his friend to respond with a light-hearted laugh at the thought. The main character, resolute in his determination, acknowledged that achieving independence would require him to save money first. Amid the looming presence of the scaffolded orphanage, someone expressed concern about the impending redevelopment and admitted uncertainty about what would become of the home. With a determined look, the man advised that careful financial planning and saving were essential to secure a stable future. Facing his friend with visible anxiety, the worried boy hesitantly wondered aloud if he should just drop out and take a part-time job, his uncertainty filling the air as the MC listened in surprise. A scratched-up boy, his worry evident, gently asked if something was wrong and noted that the other person hadn't seemed happy lately, causing an awkward pause as the conversation turned vulnerable. With a tense seriousness, the MC confronted the anxious boy and demanded that he be honest. A bruised, teary-eyed boy, his face etched with concern, confronted the other person and gently asked if something was troubling them. With determination etched across his face, the protagonist silently steeled himself for the challenge ahead. In the quiet, empty waiting area, the nervous man anxiously the accusation, while the MC, maintaining a calm yet skeptical demeanor, remarked that the man's response seemed suspicious. The young man, his expression gentle and concerned, explained that he was simply worried about the other person working alone. With a reassuring tone, the man comforted the worried boy by promising that, since only a year remained, he would take care of everything so the boy could focus on school without concern. Outside the convenience store, the man offered to buy a lighter and asked if he should get medicine as well, but the MC assured him that he still had some left from before, his tone casual and content. The bruised, protective man, his concern evident, cautioned the person off-panel to remain inside, explaining that if the kids found them, they would surely want to play. As sat slumped and visibly distressed on the bench, the MC approached with concern and called out to check on him, his voice carrying a note of worry. With a grave expression, the main character asked if the other person was aware of the friend who had died back in middle school, his tone underscoring the weight of the topic. Outside the building, the cautious man questioned the MC with suspicion, admitting he was unsure if there had even been such a friend and wondering aloud why this topic had come up so suddenly. The boy, his face bruised and his demeanor uneasy, forced a smile as he downplayed his injuries and insisted that nothing was wrong. Feeling awkward, the young man apologized with a nervous laugh, admitting he felt embarrassed for making such an odd comment. With determination etched on his face, the MC took a purposeful step forward onto the street, his presence radiating resolve as he approached the scene. In the quiet outdoor setting, the MC watched pensively from a distance while the other man sat alone under the pavilion, his dejection clear as they both waited in heavy silence. With a worried expression, the cautious young man anxiously asked if anything serious was happening, revealing his growing concern about the situation. With a heavy heart, the boy gazed downward in silence, his troubled thoughts reflected in his somber expression. Seated beneath the shelter, the MC responded wearily with a brief affirmation, while the standing man observed him in uncertain silence. In the quiet emptiness of the city, the young man paused, his eyes lingering behind him with a wistful, somber gaze. With a battered yet determined look, the young man announced his intent to leave, assuring those present that he would return. Beneath a calm, expansive sky, the city's apartment buildings and steady traffic signal set a tranquil scene, inviting a momentary pause before the story continues. Saul and the main character had grown up together in the orphanage since childhood, and now, lost in nostalgic thought, he lit a cigarette as memories of their shared past resurfaced. Outside the quiet glow of 24, the solitary man arrived, pausing in front of the store with a pensive gaze as he contemplated the item in his hands. Around the time they graduated middle school, the bankruptcy of their orphanage forced them to relocate to another area. In the dimly lit alley, the calm yet menacing man walks forward with a determined stride, his serious expression and slow exhale of smoke heightening the tense atmosphere. With a heavy sense of regret, the young man admitted that he was sorry and explained that, in order to secure stable independence with Saul, he had chosen to forego high school and begin saving money. As they made their way down the alley, the concerned companion asked if his injured friend was all right, to which the weary boy gratefully assured him that he was, while a silent man watched them from behind. Meanwhile, as the cautious young man watched from a distance, one of the suspicious men remarked with curiosity about whether their target had money, while his accomplice, scanning the dim alley, questioned if someone was interfering nearby. Reacting to an unexpected sound, the man glanced to the side with a wary expression, quietly wondering what had caught his attention. One of the aggressive men, clearly irritated, confronted the silent MC in the shadowy alleyway and demanded to know what he was staring at, while his companion stood close behind, their presence adding to the tension. The young man, maintaining a serious and assertive demeanor, pressed for a response by demanding to know why there was still no answer. Surveying the aftermath with bruises and scratches marking his skin, the young man glanced warily over his shoulder, his tension betraying the hardships he had just endured. The young man, his expression tense and analytical, silently suspected that a particular group might be involved. In a dimly lit room, the main character confronted the other man with a sharp accusation, prompting the startled suspect to defensively ask what he was being accused of, heightening the tense atmosphere. With an intense glare, the main character confronted the others, accusing them of being responsible for Saul's current condition. Facing the group with clear annoyance, the MC demanded an explanation, prompting one of the men to laugh mockingly in response, while the others watched the tense confrontation unfold. In the dimly lit alley, the defiant man met MC's serious confrontation with a smug expression, provocatively challenging him by asking what would happen if he had, heightening the tension between them. In a tense confrontation, the aggressive blonde man seized the calm MC by the collar and menacingly warned that unless the MC handed over his belongings and left immediately, he would face a beating. The ominous atmosphere intensifies as the central figure lifts his jacket to reveal a fresh burn mark, his alert gaze betraying a growing awareness of the dangers closing in. Meanwhile, the group of young men mocked the MC by laughing about his obvious fear, with one smugly pointing out how scared he seemed while the others joined in, amplifying the intimidation in the tense alleyway. As the smug young man mocked his opponent by remarking that he was only showing off and now had a hole in his clothes, he was abruptly silenced when the determined MC landed a powerful punch to his face mid-taunt. In a surge of aggression, the imposing man delivered a forceful blow that sent his shocked opponent crashing violently to the ground. The two men, visibly anxious and confused, reacted with alarm as one questioned whether the situation had become completely unhinged, while the other wondered if someone had lost their sanity. One of the hostile men confronted the MC in the deserted alleyway, demanding to know who he thought he was as tension crackled between the three. Stealing his resolve, the main character's eyes narrowed with unwavering determination as he mentally prepared for the challenge ahead. In a surge of anger, the man hurled a punch at the calm, unflinching MC, shouting that the MC was a weakling who dared to show off his attitude. In a sudden burst of determination, the MC delivered a swift punch to the man's face, catching him completely off guard and leaving the air thick with tension. With a determined stride, the main character steps boldly onto the scene, anticipation crackling in the air. Suddenly, an aggressive man launched a fierce kick into his opponent's torso, sending the defenseless figure flying backward in shock. The man, overwhelmed and agonized, struggled under intense pressure as he let out a pained groan, his expression contorted with strain. In a burst of determination, the MC delivered a devastating kick that sent his overwhelmed opponent hurtling through the air. Suddenly, as the tension in the air reaches its peak, The man is hurled backward with shocking force while the main character watches calmly, utterly unfazed by the chaos unfolding before him. With a confrontational air, the tense man demanded answers from the person before him, making it clear that he expected a direct response. As he walked, the main character reflected nostalgically on how no one ever bothered him before they moved. Confronting the group with a protective glare, the MC revealed his tattooed shoulder and angrily demanded to know if they were responsible for hurting his friend. Recalling the past, the narrator begins to reflect on events from middle school. The intimidating man confronted the kid, his threatening presence underscored as he demanded an answer. With fury burning in his eyes, the young man cursed his enemies under his breath, his voice trembling with barely contained rage. With tense resolve, the main character steps decisively into the room, his entrance breaking the silence. In the aftermath of the conflict, the battered boy stands alone in the dim hallway, his posture reflecting quiet determination amid the lingering somberness. A somber atmosphere settles as the boy, his face marked by fresh bruises, stares forward in silence, his numb expression revealing the depth of his emotional withdrawal. Standing quietly behind the anxious boy on the bench, the man gently reassured him not to worry, adding that there was only a year left. With a somber expression, the young man solemnly stated that 1 year remained, marking a critical turning point in his resolve. With unwavering resolve, the main character's hand closed tightly around his target, the intensity of the moment captured in the sharp, decisive motion. A group of boys cornered a frightened student by the window as the dominant one, grabbing his collar menacingly, threatened that he had warned about surpassing his test score and mocked the low result, while another boy watched the bullying with amusement. In a menacing display, the manipulative student taunted the MC about the narrow score difference, mockingly suggested he confess to cheating for a 0, and threatened humiliating consequences if he refused, leaving the MC feeling cornered and intimidated. Feeling a growing sense of isolation, the young man realized he was being ostracized, his tense expression revealing the weight of this troubling acknowledgement. As the MC sat quietly in the classroom, he felt a growing loneliness as he noticed his friends gradually drifting away, and the distance between himself and his peers widening. Reflecting on his profound sense of loneliness, the main character remembered that he had no allies in school. Despite the force of the blow, the main character mocked his opponent with amused defiance, laughing about how the attack came just as he was already furious, and remarking on the surprising power behind the hits. Several unseen students began to gossip among themselves, speculating with mocking tones about why the boy always ate alone, and even suggesting he might steal from their lockers during lunch. A male character, sounding wry and curious, mused that he had lost 50,000 won and would need to ask for it later, before suddenly spotting Saul and remarking on the familiar presence. In the darkness, unseen classmates began to gossip in harsh, judgmental tones, questioning Saul's identity, labeling him as a nerd, and criticizing his gloomy demeanor with dismissive and derisive remarks. As the boy walked alone, his guarded demeanor suggested that, although he heard everything around him, he chose to feign ignorance, his shadow stretching ominously behind him. As someone off-panel called out to Saul with a promise to see him again tomorrow, he reacted with visible anxiety, his wide, alert eye betraying his unease. With dread weighing heavily on him, the overwhelmed young man questioned whether he truly had to endure this torment for an entire year. As the lone figure gazed over the blurred cityscape, he quietly wondered if others had ever felt the same way, his thoughts heavy with reflection. A hand carefully inspects the open box, curiosity evident as the mysterious cylindrical objects inside catch the light. Lost in somber reflection, the man lowered his gaze, his eyes betraying the weight of his silent, serious thoughts. A trembling, nervous man, shocked by the discovery, stammered in disbelief as he realized he was holding a thick stack of cash. A nervous man, visibly anxious, apologized to the MC and insisted that he would return the money, buy new clothes, and expressed regret in case those people were the MC's friends, before hesitantly asking if the MC had hit anyone else earlier. A nervous young man, his face shadowed with fear, hurriedly explained that he and his friend had only been present for a short time to smoke, and insisted that only the other two had actually hit anyone. With a calm demeanor, the man brought a lighter close and lit his cigarette, the quiet sizzle breaking the silence. Reacting to a sudden sound, the man with patterned arms glanced upward with a wary, questioning expression, silently wondering what had caught his attention. Someone wondered aloud with uncertainty if rain had begun to fall, their question hanging in the empty, gray-tinted sky. Assessing the situation with a pensive gaze, the MC expressed his doubt, uncertain whether things were as they seemed. In the aftermath of the confrontation, the wounded young man contemplates his struggle, his eyes cast downward in quiet defeat. Narrowing his gaze, the MC fixed his sharp, determined eyes on his target, radiating unwavering focus. At night near the construction barriers, the cautious man stood alone, skeptically questioning over the phone whether the injury had truly happened during a soccer game. Suddenly, as the man stood oblivious near the construction barriers, a desperate figure plummeted toward the ground behind him, heightening the tension in the scene. As barrels erupted behind him in a fiery blast, the young man remained composed and uttered a low, unconcerned sound, unfazed by the chaos he had just unleashed. Startled and glancing over his shoulder, the young man nervously admitted to himself how much the scare had shaken him. In that moment, the male character stood frozen, his wide eyes reflecting the shock of an unexpected revelation. On the ground, a blood-stained name tag marked with the name, Saul, creates an ominous clue to the unfolding events. A somber gray funeral hall stands quietly, its presence establishing the weight of the moment. Amid the hush of the funeral hall, the young man's portrait, framed by mourning ribbons and a cascade of flowers, stands as a peaceful tribute to his memory. Bathed in silence, the man stands before the memorial altar, his grief palpable as he pays his respects to the departed. In a serious moment, an unidentified figure stoically displayed their arm, the bold stripes on their sleeve signifying a sense of authority and purpose. In that tense moment, the main character's eyes widened in shock as he suddenly realized something critical, his expression betraying the depth of his startling revelation. In an ominous atmosphere, a close-up of an eye reveals the reflection of several unaware children gathered together in a classroom, silently observed by an unseen presence. Amidst the lively classroom, the boy sits alone on his mat, quietly enveloped by a sense of loneliness as the other children chatter and play in their groups. As a boy, he was abandoned by his parents, a memory that now weighs heavily on him as he sits alone in the dimly lit room, his expression somber. As the group of boys gathered in the classroom, one warned his friends in a cautious tone that was watching them, and jokingly suggested that making eye contact might turn their eyes blue, prompting amused laughter and a ripple of unease among the others. Reflecting on his painful past, the young man recalled with a sense of hurt that even in the orphanage, he had been ignored because of his blue eyes. In the dimly lit room, the assertive boy approached and asked the cautious, defensive boy if he was, his tone making the tense atmosphere even heavier. In the dimly lit playroom, the MC, startled and defensive, demanded an explanation, prompting the anxious boy to nervously fumble for words as he tried to explain himself. Despite everything that had happened, Saul was the one who approached first. A cheerful, friendly boy, radiating hope, invited someone to join him at the playground, his gesture warm and welcoming. For a boy who had no family or friends, Saul became the only light in his lonely, dimly lit world as he reflected on his isolation. As two hands clasped in a handshake, a hopeful sense of new connection marked the beginning of MC's first true friendship. In the quiet, dimly lit room, the two boys faced each other, a wave of nostalgia washing over them as one of them deeply recalled that this was his first experience of family. Bathed in somber silence, the man stands mournfully before the wall of memorial niches, paying his wordless respects to those he has lost. Lost in contemplation, the young man sat in silence, his serious gaze revealing the weight of decisions yet to be made. At the memorial altar, Saul's name stands solemnly displayed, surrounded by photographs that quietly commemorate his memory. A stern-looking woman, her tone sharp and demanding, confronted Saul by questioning the reasoning behind his recent decision, while he stood nearby, silently absorbing her challenge. The anxious boy called out to his older sister, his voice betraying a need for reassurance as the caring woman with glasses looked down at him, her expression filled with deep worry. In the quiet, somber hall lined with memorial niches, the man expressed his worry about the woman's recent troubled expression, while she acknowledged his concern with a resigned acceptance. As the two men faced each other in a heavy atmosphere of regret, one admitted with remorse that he wished he had been more attentive if only he had stayed by the other's side, while the main character, burdened by guilt, countered that he should be the one apologizing for not paying closer attention. A woman with glasses warmly expressed her gratitude for the other's presence despite their busy schedule, while the other reassured her that supporting family was only natural, creating an atmosphere of mutual appreciation and care. In a formal, tense setting, the man, guarded and distant, remarked that he hadn't expected they would meet again after so long, while the woman, regretful and apologetic, explained she had only seen him when he moved to the orphanage and hadn't been able to visit since. A nostalgic memory surfaces as one of the characters reflects that they used to be together all the time, recalling the warmth and closeness captured in the framed photograph where three friends smile side by side. As the somber atmosphere lingered indoors, the woman asked with concern if he was heading to the orphanage, to which he quietly confirmed and inquired about her own plans. During a calm and resolute exchange, the MC explained that he intended to stay a little longer and reassured the woman he would visit later, while she quietly accepted his decision with understanding. In the quiet hallway near the staircase, the composed man calmly bid farewell to his companion, signaling that their meeting had come to an end. Meanwhile, the main character, deep in thought and visibly tense, stared intently through his glasses as a brooding silence settled over him. In the tense hallway, the woman with glasses addressed Ah in a serious tone, drawing his immediate and alert attention. The young man, his anxiety evident, questioned whether anything unusual had occurred when talking with Saul, specifically wondering if there had been any problems at school as he shifted the conversation to that topic. With a somber expression, the wounded young man quietly asked if there was any intention to return to school, his worry evident in the way he looked down. The MC, his eyes wide with shock, struggled to process the overwhelming revelation that had just struck him. Standing alone in the gray courtyard, the serious and burdened man expressed his sympathy, acknowledging that the other person must be enduring the hardest time right now. A devastated woman, her face buried in her hands, mourned the sudden loss of such a cheerful child as a somber man stood silently beside her, sharing in the overwhelming grief. In the quiet, somber lobby, the intense man gravely called out to Saul, his voice echoing as the kneeling figure remained bowed in despair. With a heavy heart, the MC turned to his sister and apologized sincerely, his voice filled with regret. Sunlight bathed the quiet city street, casting a serene glow over the buildings and trees as the scene gently established the tranquil setting. With a brooding determination, the man silently lit his cigarette, the flicker of the flame reflecting his calm yet intense resolve. On a quiet, empty street, a solitary man in a suit walks past a takeout restaurant, smoking as he moves slowly and lost in thought, the somber atmosphere reflecting his contemplative mood. Alone with his thoughts, the young man sits in profile, quietly reflecting as he holds a cigarette, his expression filled with pensive contemplation. A woman with glasses, her worry evident, gently inquired if anything unusual had occurred during the conversation with Saul, especially if there had been any school-related issues. The young man, his eyes wide with shock, struggled to accept what he realized, insisting to himself that such a thing could not be true. As the man in the suit strides away with determined purpose, the wary MC cautiously steps forward to follow him, tension hanging heavily in the air. Even if school violence was a reality, the narrator reflected on the hopelessness of the situation, emphasizing that adults had no way to resolve it. With an annoyed edge in his voice, the sharp and assertive protagonist called out harshly to his adversary, his serious gaze fixed as he confronted the situation head-on. A tense silence hangs in the air as the reason behind everything is about to be revealed. In a narrow alley shrouded in tension, the determined MC faced a group of hostile men, locking eyes with their defiant, bandaged leader, while his serious supporters stood menacingly behind him. In this somber moment, the harsh truth is revealed that violence is an ever-present force. A man with a bandaged face confronted the main character with a smug smile as he returned the clothes, pointedly remarking that he had come back just to give them, and lacing his words with clear hostility. With a confident motion, the MC tossed the mysterious item toward the tense group in the alley, telling them to take it as the others watched with wary anticipation. The man in dark clothing, calm and focused, walked forward while holding a neatly folded jacket, preparing to hand it over as a thoughtful gesture. With a hopeful expression, the MC carefully presented the repaired item, explaining that although he couldn't purchase a new one, he had managed to fix it and wondered what the other person thought of his effort. In the somber stillness, the main character collapses to the ground, his dark coat partially shrouding his defeated form as exhaustion overwhelms him. At the bus stop, the cautious but grateful man expressed surprise as he questioned whether the casually generous protagonist was truly lending him the brand-new jacket, admitting it seemed too big for him, but recalling that the other had wanted to wear it, while still hesitating as he accepted the offer. On a bustling city street, the gentle young man with glasses smiled warmly and reassured the boy that he could return the item when it suited him better in the future. The young man glanced over his shoulder, his voice sincere as he expressed his gratitude. With unwavering resolve, the main character silently assessed the situation, his intense gaze fixed straight ahead. With a smug, intimidating grin, the man leaned in closer and taunted the MC, asking if something was bothering him and whether he disliked the situation. As the blond man hurled a punch at the startled MC, he taunted him smugly, remarking that the MC should not have acted so cocky. Suddenly, the MC's eyes widened with alarm as he realized something shocking, his entire focus consumed by the critical moment unfolding before him. In a swift, controlled motion, the calm MC intercepts the aggressive man's punch and effortlessly restrains him by gripping his neck, leaving the attacker visibly surprised. Terrified, the man clutched his neck and desperately begged for a moment of mercy, his voice trembling with fear. With an ominous calm, the male character's eyes began to glow as he activated a mysterious power, his expression cold and unreadable. In a surge of fierce intensity, the MC forcefully overpowers his shocked opponent, slamming him to the ground in a dramatic display of dominance. Amid the uneasy tension, the MC confronted the other's hesitation by asking why they continued to stand there in silence, his frustration clear as the group remained anxious and uncertain. With unwavering resolve, the young man defiantly challenged his unseen adversaries, daring them all to come at him at once. A terrified man, his face slick with sweat, stammered nervously as he reacted to something ominous just out of sight. As the tension reached its peak on the deserted urban street, the aggressive instigator shouted for his group to step on the frightened boy, prompting the others to move menacingly toward their distressed target. Meanwhile, the man with dark hair surveyed the surroundings with a focused intensity, his expression shadowed by tension as he carefully observed something just out of sight. In a blur of motion, the young man unleashed his determination as he overpowered a group of stunned opponents, leaving each one reeling from his swift and decisive blows. With unwavering resolve, the young man steadied himself, his glowing blue eyes fixed downward as he prepared for the crucial moment ahead. In the calm early morning, an empty urban street and a silent building exterior set a tranquil scene, hinting at the day's quiet beginnings. With a surge of anger, the man gripped the boy's clothing in his bloody hand and lifted him up, his intimidating presence leaving the boy visibly frightened and powerless. Alarmed, the man recoiled in shock as he hesitantly uttered his confusion, confronted by the threatening figure who thrust a bloodied hand toward him. The terrified man, his eyes wide with fear and sweat beading on his brow, anxiously demanded to know what, or who stood before him. In the aftermath of the clash, several defeated men lie sprawled across the floor, while a single, coldly dominant figure stands over them, completely unharmed and exuding an intimidating presence. As the terrified man recoiled on the ground, he let out a panicked whimper while the menacing MC loomed over him with intimidating intent. As the frightened man scrambled backward on the ground, Surrounded by fallen bodies, he pleaded desperately for the imposing figure not to come any closer, his voice trembling with fear as the menacing confrontation reached its peak. With desperation etched across his face, the MC fervently apologized to the boy, his voice trembling as he expressed his overwhelming regret, while the boy sat in stunned silence, visibly shaken by the intensity of the moment. With a resigned expression, the young man looked downward, his somber blue eyes partially shrouded in shadow as he quietly insisted that there was nothing more to know, dismissing any further inquiry. Desperately, the man shouted his apology at Rome, his frustration evident as he combined his remorse with an insult. A boot looms menacingly above the fearful man's face as he braces himself, anxiety tightening every muscle in anticipation of what might come next. A weathered stone pillar bearing the orphanage sign marks the somber entrance to this pivotal setting. A lone man, his expression set with determination, walks steadily through the calm, deserted alley, his purposeful stride underscoring his sense of resolve in the tranquil night. In the quiet moment, the young man pauses to reflect, his thoughtful gaze suggesting he is lost in deep contemplation. In the calm outdoor setting, the scene establishes an empty space featuring a story phone booth, benches beneath a pergola, and scattered industrial equipment, creating a moment of stillness before the next event unfolds. In the tense atmosphere near the facility entrance, the confident boy declared that whoever lost this decisive challenge would face the consequences, while the eager kid responded with excitement, both ready to prove themselves as the calm man observed quietly. At the playground, one boy excitedly suggested they head to the snack shop after playing, and his friend happily agreed, their cheerful laughter filling the air as they made playful plans together. Outside, the MC and the other boy shared a light-hearted moment, their faces bright with friendly smiles as they enjoyed each other's company. Lost in thought, MC gazes ahead with worry etched across his face as he quietly contemplates the uncertain path before him. Alone in the quiet courtyard, the man in the dark coat walked thoughtfully, his attention absorbed by whatever message glowed on his phone. Suddenly, the main character's eyes widened in utter disbelief as he reacted to the shocking revelation that had just unfolded. A photograph captured the hostile man as he aggressively kicked the vulnerable boy already lying on the ground, his actions immortalized in a moment of violence. In the somber silence, the concerned man, his voice tinged with worry, asked the battered, withdrawn boy if he had any plans to return to school, leaving the discouraged boy to quietly absorb the difficult question. Inside the tense classroom, a wary man watched the pensive figure outside the windowed door, suspecting that there must be more to his presence than what appeared on the surface. The boy stood in the classroom doorway, his thoughts uneasy as he contemplated the revelation that Saul had been bullied at the very school he once attended. In the dimly lit classroom, 8 men lounged confidently around desks and chairs, their relaxed yet menacing postures establishing an intimidating sense of group dominance. With unwavering certainty, the man looked ahead and firmly declared that what was being proposed was impossible. Gripping his phone tightly, the main character reflected with regret that if he had chosen to attend that school, none of this would have happened. With unwavering determination burning in his eyes, the young man silently vowed to take decisive action. Under a calm, gray sky, the empty exterior of the modern school building sets a quiet, expectant tone for what is to come. As 2 boys strolled casually down the school hallway, chatting cheerfully about how today's lunch would be something delicious, and agreeing it was curry, someone watched them curiously from behind a wall. Reflecting on the beginning, the narrator recalls that Saul and they had entered the orphanage together and shared all the same experiences. As they walked side by side down the hallway, the boy asked the MC whether he preferred curry or, cheerfully adding that curry was his own favorite and turning the question back to him, sparking a light-hearted exchange between the two. Together, they depended on one another to navigate and adjust to the unfamiliar surroundings. As the 2 boys walked down the stairs, one cheerfully reminisced about how delicious curry used to be while his friend enthusiastically agreed, both unaware that someone was secretly aiming a slingshot at them from nearby. A close-up reveals the boy with glasses staring ahead, his serious expression betraying a surge of inner hesitation as he silently begins to question his earlier resolve. Meanwhile, the anxious main character watches from a distance, his worry mounting as he witnesses three aggressive boys intimidating a frightened classmate at the top of the staircase. With a defiant glint in his eyes, the boy smirked confidently as he aimed his slingshot straight ahead, preparing to unleash a challenge. No matter where they went, bullying cast its shadow, as a hostile figure forcefully grabbed another in the darkness. Suddenly, as a dark object plummeted from above, one boy shouted in alarm, urgently warning Ah to dodge while reaching out protectively as Ah, caught off guard, began to react. At that moment, the boy's eyes widened behind his glasses as he realized something alarming, his face frozen in stunned disbelief. The scene shifts to the nurse's office, marked clearly by a sign displayed on the building, establishing the new location. Alone in the dimly lit hallway, the boy waited anxiously beside the closed double doors, his isolation palpable in the silence. Leaning silently against the brick wall, the young man appeared lost in thought, his pensive gaze hinting at the weight of recent events. In the dim light, three boys loomed over their target with smug confidence, their menacing presence making it clear they were intent on intimidation. Reflecting inwardly, the young man fixated on his adversaries, a determined resolve burning in his eyes as memories of those who wronged him resurfaced. The injured boy, feeling relieved, expressed his gratitude to the silent MC as he opened the door, acknowledging the help he had received. A close-up reveals the boy with glasses beaming confidently, his bandaged cheek highlighting both his resilience and a hopeful optimism shining through. The boy's eyes, sharp with determination, reflected his unwavering focus as he stared ahead in deep concentration. In the quiet hallway, MC asked his friend with concern if he was all right, and the boy, still looking tired but trying to reassure him, replied that he was okay. In the dim hallway, the MC apologized and took the blame with a regretful tone, while the man, clearly concerned, reassured him by questioning why he felt responsible and suggesting that the others were likely just joking around. In a tense moment, the MC insisted with agitation that those guys had definitely been targeting him and not the other way around, while the boy beside him tried to reassure him with a soothing presence. The injured boy, speaking solemnly, questioned whether retaliating would make them no better than their aggressors, expressing his pain over not being protected and recalling his older sister's advice that enduring was preferable to stooping to the same level. With a somber tone, the boy cautioned that pursuing revenge would only perpetuate a cycle of more revenge, his serious gaze reflecting deep conflict as he looked over his shoulder in the blurred cityscape. As the two boys walked side by side through the dim hallway, one anxiously asked if they should just ignore the situation, while the other, more determined, assured him that he would speak to the teacher to prevent anyone from bringing dangerous items like slingshots. With tense resolve, an unseen character acknowledged the instruction, their affirmation echoing in the darkness. Even after reaching out to the teacher, nothing changed, leaving a lingering sense of hopelessness. With tension etched across his features, the boy sat in silence, his anxious gaze fixed downward as he reflected on the moment. Meanwhile, as the anxious boy walked alone toward the teacher's desk, the two smirking boys in the foreground watched him closely, their amused and calculating expressions hinting at an ominous intent to isolate him. For a brief moment, the tense atmosphere subsided. In the dim classroom, a concerned boy approached Saul and asked what he was doing, his voice revealing his worry as Saul remained withdrawn and aloof. In that moment, the main character's eyes widened in shock as he realized something critical, the tension in the air escalating with his sudden discovery. A school desk, with hostile graffiti and vicious slurs, stands as a silent testament to the targeted cruelty festering within the classroom. Even Saul, once my steadfast protector, eventually became a target for the bullies, marking a turning point that left me more alone than ever. At the entrance of the empty classroom, a sly boy lingered with a scheming smirk, watching as two unsuspecting classmates wandered inside, completely unaware of his intentions. In the shadowed close-up, the boy smirked with a sinister confidence, his eyes glinting with the hint of a malicious plan forming. The situation grew even more dire as the anxious boy glanced over his shoulder, clearly troubled by the escalating danger. Bathed in the soft glow of morning, the silent school building stands as a tranquil backdrop, establishing a calm beginning to the new day. In the quiet courtyard, the MC confronted another character, demanding to know why they had acted that way. With a defiant glint in his eyes, the boy confidently challenged authority by mocking the idea that informing the teacher would frighten them. Standing by the side of the building, the MC defensively having told the teacher, insisting he had no part in preventing others from bullying him. Suddenly, a sharp crack echoes through the tense air as a pair of glasses shatters upon the tiled floor, signaling an unexpected turn of events. As the man pinned him roughly against the wall, the boy reacted in pain and fear, his distress evident as he let out a strained groan. In a tense, tiled room, an aggressive boy menacingly grabbed another by the collar and threatened that from this moment on, the frightened boy would be the one taking the hits, while their uneasy companions looked on in silence. An ominous warning echoed through the darkness, foreshadowing that the pursuit of revenge would only perpetuate a cycle of retribution. From a distance, MC desperately shouted for Saul, interrupting the tense confrontation between the injured boy and the aggressive man. As the tense group confronted the lone approacher in the alley, the confident man addressed him with a smug remark about his perfect timing, setting the stage for an intense encounter. In the dimly lit panel, the battered boy, blood staining his face, looked down solemnly as he defiantly announced his decision to spend time with someone else instead. A man provocatively remarked that the experience must feel incredibly satisfying, leaving the boy visibly shocked as he struggled to process the intense surge of emotions. Without the prospect of revenge, a foreboding sense of emptiness settles over the scene. As the boy rushed toward the tense group, the aggressive man taunted him by asking if he intended to start a fight, his mocking tone heightening the charged atmosphere. A bold young man, radiating confidence, raised his fists and defiantly challenged his opponent by declaring that he held a black belt in Taekwondo. In a sudden burst of action, the MC delivered a powerful, determined kick that sent his shocked opponent flying across the scene. The opponent likely remained oblivious to the reason behind their actions as the boy lay stunned and injured, blood trickling from his nose in the aftermath of the harsh blow. With determination blazing in his eyes, the MC raised his clenched fist, preparing to strike as tension filled the air. With fierce determination, the MC delivers a powerful punch, the sheer force of his action radiating intensity throughout the scene. In a flash of clarity, the main character experienced a sudden, intense revelation, his eyes wide with shock. Lying bloodied and defeated on the ground, the young man struggled to endure, his only thought being that he had to avoid being stepped on. The assertive MC, his anger evident, confronted the two startled boys and demanded to know what they were doing, leaving them anxious and uneasy in the tense moment. With vulnerability etched across his bruised face, the boy pleaded with longing that someone would simply spend time with him. In the tense atmosphere, someone instructed that the first step needed to be taken. As the sun dipped below the horizon, the tranquil exterior of the school building was bathed in a warm, golden light, establishing a calm and peaceful atmosphere. Alone in the dimly lit room, the young man sat thoughtfully on his bunk bed, quietly absorbed in his book as he contemplated in solitude. Alone in the quiet room, the young man sat with his gaze lowered, his thoughts heavy and his mood somber as he reflected in silence. A close-up reveals someone gently holding a framed photograph of two boys in school uniforms, their warm smiles and close poses capturing a moment of nostalgic happiness from the past. At that moment, a mysterious woman stood determinedly in the doorway, clutching her bag, while a worried boy cautiously peeked around the corner to observe her unexpected arrival. In the calm, dimly lit room, the observant guest remarked on how neatly the place was kept, while the busy host explained in a matter-of-fact tone that his work often kept him away from using his own room. The woman warmly recalled how she used to nag the MC about cleaning when they lived together at the orphanage, and he agreed with a reflective nod, acknowledging her memory. The responsible MC, showing his caring nature, handed over a selection of snacks and asked that they be shared with the kids the next day, while the grateful man expressed his thanks for the thoughtful gesture. Meanwhile, the woman sat in silence, her worried expression betraying the weight of her troubled thoughts as she reflected on the recent events. The panel draws focus to a name placard reading Saul, building anticipation as the character is subtly introduced. As the sign for the United Orphanage comes into view, someone suggests stepping outside for some fresh air, setting a calm and expectant tone. Bathed in soft, warm light, the empty playground rides evoke a quiet sense of melancholy as the scene lingers in silence. As the boy sat beside his supportive caretaker on the empty playground bench at sunset, he expressed his gratitude for her help in finding a good orphanage, while she gently reassured him that staying there would be all right. The woman, her expression pensive, admitted that there was little she could have done in the past, while the boy, sitting apart yet earnest, reassured her that no one had cared for them the way she had. As they sat together on the bench, the main character asked with genuine interest about the man's progress on the teacher certification exam, prompting the man to explain that only the final announcement remained, his voice tinged with hopeful anticipation. As the two young men sat quietly on the playground swings at dusk, the supportive companion admired MC's family by remarking on their genius, while MC, with modest humility, downplayed his achievements by reminding him that he had not yet succeeded. Humbled by the recognition, listened as someone remarked on the impressive feat of earning living expenses while studying and imagined that if the old orphanage still existed, they would proudly celebrate its achievements with a banner proclaiming their pride. Sitting side by side on the playground swings, the young man thoughtfully asked why she had wanted to become a teacher, to which she replied with sincere warmth that she had originally hoped to help children like themselves who were marginalized, and now she had found one more reason. Curious and analytical, the woman with glasses turned to the side and asked what was happening, her tone reflecting a desire for clarification. One character deflected a question by promising to explain later, and with curiosity, immediately asked about something that had caught their attention. On a quiet playground bench in the evening, the concerned man gently asked if the MC was still working these days, to which the MC replied with a quiet, resigned confirmation, their conversation underscored by a somber mood. As the concerned woman gently asked if he was having a hard time, the young man, leaning tiredly on the railing yet resolute, assured her that he had already adapted, prompting her to quietly acknowledge his response. Standing alone by the window, the man questioned whether he had made the right choice, his uncertainty evident in his contemplative gaze. The woman gazed pensively out the window, reflecting with a sense of nostalgia on how her original dream had been to become independent alongside, once they reached adulthood. The young man, his face clouded with regret, admitted to himself that he now wished he had chosen to attend school. As the two men clasped each other's hands in a moment heavy with uncertainty, one asked what the other planned to do next, while the other admitted that he had no idea, their shared uncertainty deepening the somber mood between them. The young man, seated with a pensive expression, told the person standing nearby that he needed time to consider his decision, his hesitation clear in the tense silence between them. A woman with glasses, her expression serious and wary, glanced over her shoulder as she carefully observed her surroundings, sensing that something important was unfolding nearby. As dusk settled over the empty playground, the considerate man suggested they head inside since it was getting chilly, while the supportive MC gently encouraged him to rest as well, both showing concern for each other's well-being. A concerned man hesitantly called out to Ah, prompting the wary MC to turn and respond, signaling the beginning of a tense conversation between them. Upon hearing the unexpected news, the MC, caught completely off guard, demanded to know what had just been said, his surprise evident in his reaction. The young man, maintaining a calm demeanor, offered encouragement by assuring the other person that he would buy them something delicious if they succeeded, motivating them with this promise. In the quiet playground, the mentor gently encouraged the boy to share his worries instead of facing them alone, while the boy acknowledged the support with a receptive nod. As the soft light cast long shadows over the empty swings, the two exchanged heartfelt farewells, each wishing the other well before parting ways with a bittersweet sense of closure. Under the somber, gloomy light, two empty swings hang still in the abandoned playground, capturing a profound sense of loneliness and emptiness. In the dimly lit room, the young man focused intently as he prepared to light a cigarette, his calm demeanor hinting at the tension simmering just beneath the surface. Outside the large, dimly lit building, the man surveys the area cautiously, his wary expression betraying the tension as he clenches his hands in preparation for what might come next. Unable to bring himself to reveal the truth, he kept his decision to return to school a secret from his older sister. From within the orphanage building, an accusatory voice demanded to know if someone had been fighting again, setting a tense mood over the quiet exterior. The injured young man defensively insisted that he had only fallen, but the concerned woman, noticing the severity of his facial injuries, questioned how such damage could result from a simple fall. The main character reflected on his lonely daily struggle, revealing that he fought each day at school simply to avoid being ignored. A serious woman with glasses confronted the boy, expressing her concern that anger was no excuse for violence, while the boy defensively explained that he had only acted because the other kids were bullying Saul. The young man, his face marked with bruises, warned seriously that while helping had been the right choice, resorting to violence without restraint was still unacceptable. Reflecting on the somber memory, the narrator recalls how his older sister pleaded with him time and again to avoid fighting. Under the cold, unforgiving glow of the streetlights, the young man paused in solitude, a cigarette forgotten in his hand as he stood lost in pensive contemplation. Because of this, Saul became a victim of school violence and ultimately lost her life, as a solitary broken piece of chalk falls to the ground, underscoring the tragedy. If she had known that I was going back to school, a world of possibilities might have unfolded differently. Beneath the gloomy lighting, the empty shelter with its silent benches and abandoned bike rack emphasized the somber stillness that had settled over the scene. Reflecting on the situation, the thought surfaced that she would have certainly opposed the decision. 3 months later, the scene shifts to the entrance of high school, signaling a new chapter in the story. As a bright welcome banner stretched above the school's entrance, the atmosphere radiated warmth and anticipation for the arriving students. As they walked together through the campus gate, the main character expressed concern about their parents' somber mood and questioned his brother's apparent indifference, while his brother, with a resigned tone, explained that their parents' unhappiness stemmed from a recent argument after their father forgot the wedding anniversary. As they walked together, the main character observed with concern that the boy seemed nervous and asked if he was worried about not having friends, prompting the boy, visibly anxious and sweating, to hastily deny his nervousness and claim he was simply cold. As the brothers strolled together, the older one expressed concern about dressing warmly, prompting his younger sibling to tease him about a supposed rule for first years, and then curiously ask about their mother's return, leaving the older brother bewildered by the sudden question. Spotting the boy across the street near the school, the bespectacled main character watched intently and recognized him as his target, his gaze sharp with suspicion. On a bustling city street, the young man, his voice filled with worry, urgently called out for as he turned his head in search of him. Outside the school gate, the surprised main character initiated a conversation by addressing and asking if they had attended the same school, while the other student responded with indifference as a third figure approached in the background. In the quiet hallway, the level-headed young man responded to the newcomer by sharing his class 1-2, and encouraged him that adapting would be easy. The young man, caught off guard and overwhelmed, reacted in stunned disbelief as anxiety washed over him. Suddenly, as a violent confrontation erupts, an aggressive man kicks another to the ground while the anxious MC, hidden behind a wall, witnesses the shocking scene unfold. A stern-looking man confronted the MC with an accusing glare, angrily demanding whether he was wandering around carelessly, while the nervous MC apologized hesitantly, only for the man to snap that a simple apology would not fix everything. Approaching the group with a tone of regret, the man apologized for his little brother's nervous behavior, prompting one of the boys to react with surprise as he questioned whether the man also had a younger brother. The anxious young man nervously pleaded for forgiveness, hoping the stern older man would let his mistake slide just this once. But the older man responded with surprise, questioning the bold request. In a surge of tension, the aggressive man demanded to know what the MC had just said, prompting the anxious MC to quickly stammer that it was nothing important as he tried to explain himself. Suddenly, the man is caught off guard as he is struck in the face by a powerful, shocking blow. Suddenly, the young man with glasses stared upward, his eyes wide with shock as he found himself utterly stunned by the unexpected event unfolding before him. 3 male students in crisp school uniforms faced each other in a charged silence, their anxious expressions and tense posture revealing the mounting pressure of an unexpected confrontation. A single drop of blood falls and lands on the ground, its presence casting an ominous tension over the scene. The aggressive man, his tone provocative, taunted the battered young man by asking if being hit like that made him angry, while the injured boy endured the humiliation in stoic silence. With determination etched on his face, the MC stepped onto the edge of the rooftop, the tense atmosphere amplified by the solitary sound of his foot meeting the concrete against the blurred cityscape below. Sensing a presence, the man in the suit turned his head warily, his body tense with alertness as he tried to discern what, or who, might be behind him. Under the dim glow of the streetlights, the main character moves forward in solitude, his pensive gaze lost in the shadows that envelop the empty city street. The aggressive leader, his tone menacing, confronted the fearful boy kneeling before the group and declared that when a younger brother made a mistake, it was the older brother who should bear the consequences, while the protagonist watched anxiously from the sidelines. In a tense confrontation, the desperate MC pleaded fearfully for forgiveness, while the cold, dominant man demanded that he kneel in submission. Nervously facing the intimidating figure on the dimly lit street, the boy awkwardly laughed and admitted that the situation felt eerily familiar to him. The man, exuding smug confidence, mocked his opponent by asking if he had learned the tactic of making losers kneel from Saul, then sneered that pathetic losers never strive to overcome challenges, but always look for ways to avoid them. With tears streaming down his face, the man, his expression solemn, offered the boy a single chance at redemption, explaining that this forgiveness was granted only because the boy had asked for it. With a menacing glint in his eyes, the man coerced the kid by issuing a sinister ultimatum, stating that if the kid fought his friend and emerged victorious, he would show leniency toward the kid's brother. As the 2 students walked together in tense silence, the anxious boy warned that if things didn't change, the other's brother would be forced to run errands for the rest of the school year, heightening the sense of pressure between them. With a sly, challenging glint in his eyes, the man taunted his unseen opponent by asking what he intended to do next, heightening the tense atmosphere between them. A tense man, his face partially covered by his hand, anxiously informed the others that the boy's younger brother was about to get into a fight. With unwavering determination, the MC unleashed a powerful, downward strike, his glowing eyes locked on the stunned man who reeled from the overwhelming force. Before returning to school, an overcast sky looms above the building, setting an anticipatory mood for what is to come. As the group of 4 young men walked together down the city sidewalk, one of them exclaimed with relief that vacation had finally arrived, and the others shared in his relaxed excitement. As they strolled down the city street, one man casually suggested playing billiards or taking a cigarette break, while the other responded with a cheerful tease, warning him not to act cocky just because he might lose again. As he stood smirking in the foreground, the man pensively recalled how intense their last encounter had been, while across the street, the other man waited, oblivious to the scrutiny. Meanwhile, the serious young man, deep in thought, examines his phone closely as he reads a critical message, his focus unwavering. With a hostile glare, the man threatened his opponent by saying he would beat him relentlessly. In a sudden eruption of violence, the furious man leapt forward and stomped viciously on the distressed MC, who lay helpless and vulnerable on the alley floor. In that charged moment, the protagonist's eye widened as he was struck by a sudden, crucial realization that left him both shocked and resolute. The scene shifts to an exterior view of the billiards hall, its colorful signs establishing the next location with a neutral mood. The players exchanged playful remarks about the failed shot, with one lamenting that it did not fit as expected while the other teased about how great it was supposed to feel, their laughter echoing over the closely positioned balls on the table. In a casual yet tense moment, the irritated man asked if anyone had cigarettes left, while the MC admitted with indifference that he had already smoked them all. As one man abruptly left the pool table in annoyance, the MC curiously asked where he was going, to which the frustrated man replied that he was heading to the bathroom, all while another player continued his game, seemingly unfazed by the exchange. With a smug grin, the confident man brushed off the claim, stating with mockery that he absolutely was not involved, while the bystander watched the exchange unfold in silence. A closed door labeled bathroom stands ahead, its pipes looming above, setting an anticipatory tone as someone prepares to approach. Meanwhile, a man, oblivious to any presence behind the partially open door, stood alone at the urinal in the tense silence of the restroom. Pausing uncertainly in the tiled hallway, the protagonist wondered whether he should simply head home. Startled by something unexpected, the man abruptly turned his head and wondered aloud what had just happened. A man, startled by the sudden appearance of MC in the doorway, reacted with surprise as MC, exuding suspicion, demanded to know what he was doing. Stealing his resolve, the MC's eyes burned with unwavering determination as he glared forward beneath the dramatic light. In a tense, tiled room, the aggressive man confronted the MC, demanding to know if he was a foreigner and questioning his strange behavior, while the uncomfortable MC remained silent under the scrutiny. As MC delivered a powerful punch with unwavering determination, the shocked man, reeling from the blow, stammered an apology upon realizing MC could understand Korean. Suddenly, the main character was caught off guard and let out a stunned gasp as he reacted in pain, his wide eyes filled with shock. Suddenly, the man is forcefully slammed to the bathroom floor, his expression a mixture of shock and disbelief at the unexpected attack. As the boy suddenly began coughing in distress, the man, his tone edged with suspicion, demanded to know both the cause of the boy's abrupt reaction and why someone was targeting Saul. Standing over the frightened man slumped on the bathroom floor, the aggressor mocked him with sneering questions about Saul, ridiculing both Saul's reputation and the nature of their relationship, clearly enjoying his dominance in the tense confrontation. With a disturbed intensity in his eyes, the young man questioned whether there was ever a real reason to bully someone, remarking bleakly that having at least one outcast in school seemed almost inevitable. Amused by the situation, the mocking observer remarked that someone had run off to tattle without even feeling embarrassed, finding the whole scene rather entertaining. In a sudden burst of violence, the MC unleashed a fierce kick that sent the shocked man sprawling backward into his seat. With unwavering determination, the MC locked his gaze forward, his intense focus revealing the gravity of the moment. With unwavering determination, the MC lunged forward and unleashed a powerful punch, the air slicing with a sharp sound as the intensity of the moment peaked. Suddenly, the boy tenses as he senses imminent danger, his worried gaze fixed upward against the stark red, action-lined backdrop. Suddenly, the furious man thrust his fist into the MC's face, the impact resonating against a blood-red backdrop as shock registered in the MC's eyes. With explosive force, an angry man drove his fist into another man's face, sending his opponent's head snapping back in shock. In a sudden eruption of violence, the furious man relentlessly slammed his helpless opponent against the wall, the repeated sounds of impact filling the tense air. Under the dim light, the troubled young man sat in silence, his gaze cast downward as he reflected pensively on his situation. After taking a harsh blow to the face, the man with glasses, filled with remorse, admitted that he had been deceived and expressed his regret. Suddenly, the fierce aggressor landed a powerful punch across the stunned man's face, amplifying the violent tension in the air. The male character, face twisted in anguish and regret, reflected intensely on how he would have acted differently had he understood the depth of another's suffering. In the darkness, a man's shoe slammed down with brutal force onto his opponent's face, capturing the raw intensity and dominance of the moment. Someone questioned whether the boy intended to return to school, their words hanging heavily in the tense air as he clenched his fist in troubled silence. Seething with fury, the man muttered under his breath, his resentment toward his adversary barely contained. With unwavering resolve, the MC clenched his grimy fist, readying himself for the challenge ahead. With unrelenting force, the MC drove his fist into the man's face, smashing him into the wall and leaving the man stunned and overwhelmed by the sudden, brutal attack. Gripped by terror, the man, his eye wide and shadowed with fear, desperately pleaded for his life, insisting that he would have killed the other long ago and now begged to be spared. A menacing man confronted the cowering, fearful boy, accusing him of sending a threatening video, while the boy stammered a terrified denial of any involvement. The MC, gripping the man's hair with determination, demanded to know who had sent the attackers, prompting the frightened man to nervously admit that it was probably. Desperate and battered, the wounded man confessed that had instructed him to attack Senior Saul. With tension thick in the air, the male character's face emerged from the shadows, his expression resolute as he silently steeled himself for the confrontation ahead. With fierce intensity, the main character confronted the bully and demanded that everyone who had tormented Saul, including the person before him, be warned. With a grim and determined expression, the battered man stared forward and gravely warned that the rest of their school life hung in the balance. An ominous atmosphere settles as the panel foreshadows that torment is inevitable. A tranquil school building rises beyond the wall, its peaceful presence setting the stage for what is to come. In the empty courtyard beneath the pergola, the MC approached with a serious expression, initiating a tense discussion as the seated man listened intently, worry etched on his face. Meanwhile, the man with a bandage on his face leans forward, sweat beading on his brow as he struggles to contain his growing anxiety. A smug young man taunted MC about being beaten by a first-year on his first day, prompting MC to respond defensively and tell him to be quiet. Feeling deeply embarrassed, the anxious young man in the red jacket confessed to the silent observer that he couldn't even hold his head up because of him, then questioned in disbelief whether that person had actually enrolled. Two men sat together on a bench beneath the shelter, one pensively recalling that they had met someone at the billiards hall a month ago, while the other listened attentively and confirmed the memory with quiet curiosity. Nervously sweating, the man asked if there had ever been a grudge between them, his worry evident as he probed for the truth behind the conflict. With a menacing glare in his glowing eyes, the resolute man warned his adversary that from this moment on, only suffering awaited them. The apprehensive man, processing the gravity of the situation, admitted with growing anxiety that this was only the beginning and confessed his fear that they might be in serious trouble. In the tense outdoor confrontation, the assertive man confidently warned his opponent not to interfere, insisting that any further action would only add to his embarrassment. In the tense courtyard meeting, the authoritative man instructed his subordinates to deal with the situation swiftly before the seniors found out and escalated matters, while one of them acknowledged the order with determined agreement. With exaggerated enthusiasm, the cheerful young man loudly greeted the seniors, causing the reserved MC to react with visible unease. With a proud smile, Bay introduced himself boldly as a first-year student, stepping forward while the two supportive figures stood behind him. During a tense confrontation, one man shouted in shock that the others had startled him, while the other, maintaining a calm and amused demeanor, questioned why he was taking out his anger on the kids, prompting a hasty apology. In the tense courtyard encounter, one of the confrontational demanded to know if the group were first-years who had just joined, prompting the cautious MC to confirm that they were. With a somber expression and a tear tracing his cheek, the grave man warned that among the first-year students, there would be one with blue eyes. One man, his voice sharp with determination, ordered that the other be taken down, leaving his opponent staring back in stunned confusion. In a tense exchange, the aggressive man with a bandage ordered his subordinate to attack the blue-eyed target by any means necessary, and the determined subordinate quickly confirmed that he understood. The MC, his voice serious and authoritative, warned the anxious group to leave quickly, prompting nervous glances and hesitant movements among the young men gathered outside. Standing in silence, the man surveyed the situation with a pensive air, his face half shrouded in shadow as he contemplated what lay ahead. A classroom sign labeled 1-2 hangs outside a quiet hallway, introducing a calm and expectant atmosphere as the setting for what is to come. In the quiet, nearly empty classroom, the MC sat alone at his desk, lost in lonely contemplation, while the other boys kept their distance. One watching him with curiosity, another turning away indifferently, and a third withdrawn into his own thoughts, casting a melancholy hush over the room. Meanwhile, the main character stands in quiet contemplation, his profile tense as he processes the weight of his thoughts in the somber atmosphere. The MC, his voice unwavering with determination, confronted the group and declared that his sole purpose was to repay the bullies for what they had done too, filling the tense classroom with a chilling sense of retribution. Reflecting on their school life, the male character gazes intently with a pensive expression, lost in thought. An irritated man grabbed the back of a chair and demanded that the person move because it was his seat. With a steely resolve in his eyes, the MC issued a menacing threat to his adversary, declaring that this place must be turned into hell. A startled boy in a puffer jacket suddenly stopped in front of the classroom lockers, reacting in shock as he exclaimed in alarm, drawing the attention of several observing students. Stunned, the man realized with dismay that the person before him was far more unsettling than he had imagined. A smug man seized the MC by the collar in a tense confrontation, but the MC met his threatening gaze with calm defiance, refusing to show any fear. With unrelenting determination, the aggressive attacker lands a fierce punch that sends the other man's head snapping to the side, leaving him visibly shocked by the sudden blow. Suddenly, the man grew anxious as he internally questioned why this unexpected person had shown up, his face betraying his tension and worry. The man, appearing perplexed, confronted the MC about the seat, prompting the anxious MC to hastily clarify that it actually belonged to the other man. In the tense classroom, the anxious man apologized to the seated student for his previous actions, leaving the student surprised by the unexpected gesture. Nervously, the main character extended a 50,001 note with both hands, anxiously explaining that, since the repair seemed difficult, he at least wanted to offer this as compensation. Silently assessing the situation, the man watched with a contemplative gaze, his calm demeanor hinting at the weight of his thoughts. Startled by an unexpected event, the man quickly glanced to the side and exclaimed in alarm. Inside the classroom, tension thickens as the MC sits defensively on the floor beneath the dominant glare of his challenger, while uneasy bystanders watch the confrontation unfold in silence. A confident man greeted the seated MC with a warm smile, expressing how delighted he was to see him. In the uneasy hallway, the man initiated a conversation with forced humor, remarking with insincere amusement on their repeated encounters, while the startled MC reacted in shock to the unexpected confrontation. With a smug grin, the blonde-haired man taunted the somber student by announcing that the school errand runner had already been chosen, leaving the MC to silently endure the humiliation by the window. Suddenly, the man recoiled in shock, his eyes wide with fear as he responded instinctively to the alarming event unfolding before him. Despite his battered appearance, the boy faces forward with a defiant glint in his eyes, meeting adversity head-on with a subtle, unyielding smile. Steeling his resolve, the young man fixed his intense gaze forward, determination burning in his eyes. In the tense classroom, one student taunted that the newcomer was having a streak of bad luck from his very first day, while another, more authoritative figure, firmly ordered someone to stop him, heightening the sense of confrontation. A man, caught off guard by the sudden turn of events, reacted in confusion as he wondered aloud what was happening. As the tension built in the classroom, the anxious boy, feeling the weight of his classmates' attention, stammered in fear as he realized he had become their target. With unease in his voice, the man recounted how he had been relentlessly bullied throughout middle school and now found himself face to face with his tormentor once more, his grip tightening anxiously around the other's wrist. In a moment heavy with meaning, the man deliberately placed the mysterious token into the MC's open palm, his resolute demeanor contrasting with the curiosity flickering in the MC's eyes. The intimidating man, his demeanor menacing, commanded the frightened boy to eat, shoving the food toward the boy's mouth as the boy recoiled in fear. With a sinister glint in his eyes, the man leaned in and pressured the other character, remarking that there was no reason to hesitate since they had eaten this often before, and implying they must have enjoyed it. Noticing the brewing tension between the students, the teacher stepped in with a concerned tone, urging everyone to remain calm and friendly since it was only the first day, while one startled boy questioned the sudden intervention and the other paused in shock. In the tense classroom confrontation, one of the aggressive male students demanded to know who the newcomer was, while the MC, maintaining his composure, responded that it was perfectly normal for friends to get along, leaving the rest of the class watching apprehensively. In the midst of a tense confrontation, the man in the white shirt demanded to know who the MC thought he was to give orders, while the MC nervously admitted the point, but questioned whether taking such a strong stance on the first day was a mistake, wondering if he should have aligned himself with the others instead. With a smug and mocking tone, the man taunted another character, insisting that they would be lying there helpless if it weren't for the intervention of a third party. As the tension between them mounted, the confrontational man angrily demanded to know if his adversary thought he was a loser simply for being nice, while the amused MC internally found the man's sudden outburst entertaining. With a commanding air, the MC gestured sharply downward and insisted that clarity was necessary. As the aggressive and dominant MC tightened his grip around the man's throat, the overpowered victim gasped desperately, barely able to utter a strangled sound in a futile plea for mercy. With a malicious glint in his eyes, the man smirked and cruelly asserted to the MC that, in his view, the MC was nothing more than a loser. The man, visibly frightened, reacted with fear as he swallowed nervously, betraying his anxiety in the tense moment. During the tense confrontation, as the man grabbed the MC's wrist in a display of dominance, the nervous MC stammered an apology, only for the man to mockingly point out how insincere it seemed after all the attitude the MC had shown before. With a smug grin, the man taunted the desperate MC, mocking his efforts and urging him to stretch out even further as tension crackled between them. In that instant, the main character's eyes widened in shock as a crucial realization struck him, his intense gaze revealing the gravity of the moment. With fierce determination, the dominant man forcefully hurls his defenseless opponent to the ground, filling the scene with raw intensity and shock. Reeling from a powerful blow, the injured man let out a pained gasp as agony contorted his face. Locking eyes with unwavering determination, the MC focused intensely as he realized that he had finally identified his rival. The scene shifts to a tranquil view of the deserted school sports field and stands, with the building standing quietly in the background, setting a calm atmosphere. In the tense classroom, an authoritative man led a serious investigation at the front desk, while several anxious boys and solemn men gathered around, each displaying various shades of worry and guarded anticipation. As the tense atmosphere hung in the air, the distressed boy struggled to breathe and coughed violently, while the stern man watched him with an indifferent gaze. As the mysterious man arrived with determined confidence, the main character, overwhelmed with relief and hope, realized that someone had truly come to rescue him. Meanwhile, the young man paused to reflect, his calm gaze fixed ahead as a quiet serenity settled over his features. Straining in agony, the man let out a pained groan as he clutched his side, struggling to cope with the sudden surge of pain. In the tense classroom standoff, one defiant student challenged the attacker by accusing him of resorting to a cowardly ambush, his anger clear as others watched the confrontation unfold. The dominant man, his actions fueled by hostility, forced something toward the startled MC while declaring with grim satisfaction that it was finally going in properly. In a sudden burst of intensity, the black-haired student unleashed a decisive punch, sending his stunned opponent crashing backward across the scene. Suddenly, the main character reacts in shock, his wide-open eye reflecting a surge of startled intensity as he witnesses something unexpected. With unwavering determination, The MC forcefully stomped his foot on the ground, the dramatic impact signaling a new surge of intensity. In a tense moment, the aggressive man lunged forward with a punch, but the MC, calm and composed, stood his ground without flinching. From a dramatic top-down angle, the dark-haired man in a suit launched a determined punch at the surprised blonde-haired boy, their tension electrifying the air as the conflict erupted. With unwavering determination, the young man steadied himself, his intense gaze and raised hand signaling that he was ready to face the challenge ahead. Reacting in shock, the man, visibly alarmed and frightened, uttered a curse under his breath as panic seized him. In a sudden explosion of force, one man delivered a devastating punch that sent his opponent hurtling through the air, both their faces etched with fierce aggression and utter shock. The man, visibly unsettled, reacted with shock as he expressed his disbelief at what the MC had just done. As a blurred, empty train platform comes into view with dramatic motion lines, the tense atmosphere intensifies as the train rushes in. As the dominant man in the suit delivered a powerful, confident kick that sent his stunned opponent flying, the overpowered man could only think in shock that his adversary was unbelievably strong. Suddenly, the overbearing man lunged toward the frightened boy, his anger palpable as the boy recoiled in fear, heightening the tense atmosphere in the room. As the MC approached assertively with the cautious boy following behind, the cornered man recoiled in distress and uttered a pained groan, revealing his mounting nervousness in the tense classroom confrontation. Amid the quiet, the MC appears deep in thought, his gaze reflecting a wave of silent contemplation. As the tense atmosphere settled over the empty classroom, the main character stepped inside warily, assessing the scattered group of anxious and guarded students who avoided each other's eyes. As the furious man confronted the MC and yelled after him in frustration that things were not over and demanded to know where he was going, a startled boy watched the tense exchange unfold. Bursting into the room with anger, the authoritative man demanded to know what was happening, while the others looked on in shock and tension. A stern teacher confronted the noisy classroom, warning the students in an annoyed tone that if they continued causing a commotion on the first day, they risked receiving demerits. In the tense classroom, several boys lingered with anxious, uneasy expressions while a stern authority figure observed them, each student weighed down by his own troubled thoughts. An aggressive male, his fist clenched in anger, confronted someone and demanded to know where they were going. A man, his face twisted in rage, confronted someone forcefully as he demanded to know where they thought they were going. Suddenly, a sharp, resounding noise echoes through the tense atmosphere as someone forcefully slams the desk. Suddenly, one student launched a fierce flying kick at another's head, leaving the victim stunned while the main character watched the violent confrontation unfold with a detached calm. With a smug grin, the man taunted his opponent by remarking that someone seemed slow to learn and sarcastically pointing out the attempted ambush. The calm hallway scene centers on the classroom 1-2 sign, quietly establishing the next setting. The man, clutching his neck with an annoyed grimace, muttered inwardly that the pain still lingered, his frustration evident in every tense movement. Meanwhile, the blonde character paused to assess the distant man sitting alone by the window, his expression thoughtful as he tried to make sense of the heavy silence between them. The man, his expression tense and wary, wondered aloud in frustration what the other person could possibly be doing as he observed the suspicious behavior unfolding before him. In the nearly empty classroom, the MC confronted his classmate with a stern challenge, prompting the startled boy to defensively demand what he was staring at. In the classroom, the boastful man confidently claimed that with a bit more time, he would have easily defeated his opponent, insisting he would demonstrate his true abilities in the future, while the calm MC observed him in silence. The assertive male student urgently called out to his classmates, startling them and drawing the entire classroom's attention with his sudden interruption. The boy, his expression sincere and humble, thanked the other person for their help earlier, his voice filled with gratitude. Meanwhile, the main character reflected gratefully on how much easier his school life had become thanks to the support of his friends. A casually dominant student mocked the nervous boy by suggesting he would be too busy running errands to attend class, prompting the uneasy boy to laugh awkwardly. While from the sidelines, the main character critically questioned whether the boy intended to keep living that way. In the tense, dimly lit classroom, the main character confronted the isolated student with a serious expression, pointedly asking if he intended to continue living while letting others push him around, while the other boys watched in uncertainty. The nervous MC hesitantly warned that once people began ignoring someone, everyone else would follow suit, while the serious man in the suit sat in foreboding silence, delivering this harsh truth. With a cold and calculating demeanor, the young man issued an ominous ultimatum, warning the MC that from that moment on, no one at school would offer any help. With a determined tone, the man urged the uneasy MC that retaliation was necessary, insisting it was the only way to restore peace. Inside the quiet room, the confident man in the suit assured the two uneasy figures that help was available, his calm demeanor offering reassurance despite their lingering uncertainty. In a casual exchange within the classroom, the main character sarcastically insisted to his skeptical classmate that he was merely breaking up the fight, and complained that the homeroom teacher was being unfair, while the other student questioned his version of the story. With a defensive tone, the MC tried to justify his behavior to his classmates by pointing out that, thanks to him, they had avoided getting scolded, while the others watched in tense silence. In the tense classroom atmosphere, Ha confidently introduced himself and with inquisitive curiosity asked the newcomer about his previous school, but the guarded boy responded aloofly that it was none of his business. In the quiet classroom, one of the students anxiously voiced his concern that they should be careful around the boy they had trouble with, warning the others that this student was well connected and could cause problems, while the rest listened with worried expressions. In the tense hallway, the concerned authority figure pressed the MC about the consequences of the fight, asking if he, too, would be held accountable, while the MC, remaining guarded, insisted he was fine and questioned whether the school had any insurance for such incidents. In the shadows, the calculating man displayed a menacing smirk, his self-assured demeanor hinting at sinister intentions yet to unfold. The young man, his expression serious and wary, resolved that he needed to act with even greater caution. The two boys burst into laughter, mocking the MC by calling him a show-off and delighting in seeing him caught, while the annoyed MC confronted them and demanded to know what they wanted. Across the desk in the tense classroom, the other student pressed MC seriously for the real reason behind his help, while MC responded defensively, wary of revealing his true motives. Reflecting on the earlier confrontation, MC humbly downplayed his own role by explaining to the attentive listener that his actions were less about helping and more about joining in, insisting that the situation could have been handled just fine without him, while a silent observer stood by. A male student casually explained to the MC that he had no particular reason for his actions, suggesting it was simply better if classmates got along, all while glancing back with a nonchalant smile. With an earnest glint in his eyes, the man expressed his hope that becoming friends would be enjoyable, leaving the cautious MC both wary and intrigued by the unexpected proposal. In the friendly atmosphere of the classroom, one welcoming student cheerfully invited the new boy to be friends, to which the amused newcomer responded positively, while another curious student asked if he was familiar with the older grades. In the quiet classroom, the man leaned forward, and with a curious glint in his eyes, asked the MC if there was anyone he was particularly interested in. With desperation etched across his battered face, the injured man revealed to the others that it was who had instructed him to attack Sun Senior. With a confident smirk, the mysterious man called out's name, causing the wary MC to tense at the unexpected recognition. Someone cautiously implied that, although they were uncertain about all the specifics, there was at least one thing they understood for sure. As the amused man aimed his smartphone to capture some embarrassment, he mockingly questioned why was making a spectacle of himself at the very start of the semester. On the cold ground, the defeated boy curled in pain as the aggressive figure loomed over him, while the other two watched with indifference, heightening the tense atmosphere of his humiliation. Confronting the kneeling man through the phone camera, someone demanded to know if he thought his actions on the way to school would go unnoticed, prompting the fearful man to desperately apologize as he begged for forgiveness. Despite his battered state, the defiant man in the red jacket demanded that the other person stop apologizing and focus on him, his pained expression underscoring the tense moment. An ominous warning hangs in the air, suggesting there is someone present whom others should be careful not to provoke. With a smug expression, the calculating man raised his smartphone and ordered the MC to smile, his intent to force a photo clear in his sinister demeanor. A battered, bandaged man, wearing a contemptuous grin, openly mocked and insulted someone off-panel, relishing in his cruel taunts. Outside near the brick wall, one man curiously asked the other about a certain individual's name, to which the MC replied it was I am, prompting the first man to remark with indifference that he had never heard of him. The MC, adopting a serious tone, questioned the tense group if anyone among them had heard of the person in question, while the young men stood in uneasy silence, clearly intimidated by his authority. A tense silence settled over the uneasy group, as the authority figure demanded to know if anyone could explain the nature of Saul's relationship. With a derisive smirk, the confident group leader mocked the others, implying that they lacked intelligence as the tense group listened uneasily beneath the shelter. Standing over the kneeling boy in the courtyard, the assertive man remarked in a condescending tone that if something was meant to be an ornament, it should at least be pleasing to look at, while his passive companion watched indifferently, and the boy remained humiliated in submission. In the tense silence, the stoic man stood over the anxious boy, his stern presence making the boy avert his gaze in nervous submission. Kneeling with fear evident on his injured face, responded obediently to the commanding presence of the MC, affirming his submission. In a tense confrontation in the deserted courtyard, the authoritative man chastised the kneeling, regretful boy by saying he should have behaved when he had the chance and expressed that it broke his heart, while the boy, ashamed, quietly apologized. Despite his battered state and visible pain, the young man insisted with defiant determination that he was fine, downplaying his injuries to reassure the person beside him. Suddenly, the man recoiled in shock as he took a heavy blow to the face, his pain evident in the startled cries that escaped him. Suddenly, the larger man's forceful move sent his opponent crashing to the ground, leaving the shocked victim sprawled and overpowered. Outside, as tension crackled between them, the aggressive man threatened the silent MC by expressing his irritation and questioning what would happen if his violent blow failed to hurt. Amid an awkward tension, the MC suspiciously questioned whether the other man had genuinely tried his best, while the anxious man hurriedly insisted that he had hit as hard as he could and had not gone easy just because they were friends. With a skeptical glint in his eye, the man questioned the claim, his tone revealing clear doubt. On a deserted sidewalk, one of the men taunted the fearful, crouching boy by remarking that hitting hard was pointless if it didn't hurt, while the boy, clearly intimidated and in pain, apologized nervously and insisted that it actually did hurt, as the other man stood by indifferently. The domineering man threatened the boy with a smug confidence, demanding to know if the pain was enough, while the panicked boy, overwhelmed and fearful, could barely stammer out a response. Reeling from intense pain, the man clutched his face and cried out in agony that it hurt unbearably. A group of male students encircled the fearful MC as one leaned in with a mocking sneer, loudly remarking to the others that the kneeling boy must have an ornament for a head to dare insult a senior. A battered man, crouching anxiously on the ground, expressed his relief that they were only dealing with the current figure, confessing to the silent MC that the thought of facing, instead, was truly horrifying. With a stern gaze and an air of authority, the man asserted that he was more merciful than and would grant the MC one final chance. With a menacing air, the leader authoritatively ordered his men to crush their kneeling targets, prompting an immediate and resolute affirmation from his subordinate as the rest of the group closed in, tension thickening in the confrontation. With tense resolve, the protagonist stepped forward onto the patterned stone floor, making his entrance known. The man, his expression tinged with melancholy, thoughtfully admitted that he missed Saul, his words revealing a deep sense of longing. With a smirk, the man recalled with amusement that someone from the past had been completely out of control,